For years, healthy eating advice has been reduced to one very simple belief. Raw is cleaner, raw is fresher, raw is healthier. And cooking? Cooking destroys nutrients. So naturally, many people start believing that the more raw vegetables they eat, the healthier they must become. But then something confusing happens. Some people thrive on salads, smoothies, raw fruits, and crunchy vegetables. They feel lighter, clearer, fresher. And some people feel the exact opposite. They feel bloated, cold, heavy, gassy, hungry again too soon, or somehow healthy on paper but not actually nourished. So which is true? Are raw foods superior? Or can cooking actually make food more useful to the body? Ayurveda gives a surprisingly intelligent answer. The real question is not just what is on the plate. The real question is, what can your body digest, absorb, and transform today? And that depends on Agni, your digestive fire. In Ayurveda, digestion is not seen as a simple breakdown of food in the stomach. It is viewed as transformation. Food becomes energy. Energy supports tissues. Tissues support immunity, resilience, clarity, and life itself. The force behind that transformation is called Agni. Agni literally means fire, but in the body it refers to something much more sophisticated than just heat or appetite. It includes digestive efficiency, absorption, assimilation, metabolic conversion, and tissue-level nourishment. Classical Ayurvedic literature treats Agni as foundational to health, and later Ayurvedic reviews summarizing Charaka and Vagpata describe it as central to digestion, absorption, metabolism, and the proper formation of tissues. Classical dietary guidance also emphasizes that the right quantity of food depends on digestive strength, not on rigid rules alone. So Ayurveda does not ask only one question about food: is this food healthy? It asks a second, deeper one: can my present Agni handle it well? That question changes nutrition from a trend into a living intelligence. Because the same raw salad that energizes one person may burden another. The same cooked bowl of vegetables that feels soothing in winter may feel too heavy in peak summer. Ayurveda is not obsessed with food ideology. It is obsessed with digestive reality. Now, to be fair, raw foods earned their health reputation for good reasons. Uncooked foods can preserve certain delicate compounds that are damaged by heat. They often provide freshness, hydration, crunch, enzymes inherent to the food itself, fiber structure, and in some cases, more of heat-sensitive vitamins like vitamin C. Studies confirm that cooking can reduce some vitamins, especially vitamin C, depending on the method. Boiling is often more damaging than steaming or microwaving. And raw foods do offer something cooked foods cannot fully replicate: aliveness of texture, that crispness, that watery freshness, that immediate sense of lightness. This is one reason fruits are so often eaten raw across cultures. A ripe fruit is already softened by nature. It carries water, sugars, organic acids, and usually asks less digestive effort than a dense, raw cruciferous salad. So Ayurveda is not anti-raw. In fact, raw foods can be deeply supportive when the food is right, the season is right, and the Agni is ready. Raw foods may be especially useful when the body needs cooling, hydration, lightness, or less heaviness than dense cooked meals. But here is where modern nutrition often stops too early. Because nutrition is not just about what a food contains, it is also about what your body can access. This is where the raw versus cooked debate becomes fascinating. Plants store nutrients inside cells surrounded by tough structural walls made largely of cellulose and fiber. Think of these as microscopic vaults. Inside those vaults are valuable compounds: carotenoids, antioxidants, polyphenols, vitamins, pigments, minerals. But unless those walls are broken open by chopping, blending, chewing, fermenting, or heating, some of those nutrients remain harder to access. This is why a food can look nutrient-dense on paper, but still deliver less to the body than expected. Cooking can soften plant walls and improve the release of some compounds, especially carotenoids. Reviews of food processing and antioxidant bioavailability show that heat can either reduce or improve nutrient availability depending on the compound and the cooking method. So heat is not automatically destructive. Sometimes heat is what opens the door. Tomatoes are one of the best-known examples. Raw tomatoes certainly contain nutrients, but their lycopene, a carotenoid studied for antioxidant and cardiometabolic relevance, becomes more bioavailable after cooking and processing. Reviews note that cooked and processed tomato products can provide more usable lycopene than raw tomatoes, even with some vitamin C decline. So when you lightly cook tomatoes, some fragile nutrients may go down, but lycopene availability may go up. That means cooking didn't simply destroy the food, it changed the food. And that's the nuance most nutrition slogans miss. Carrots give us another useful lesson. Raw carrots are healthy. They offer fiber, crunch, and beta-carotene. But beta-carotene from carrots is much better absorbed when the carrots are cooked, processed, and ideally consumed with some fat. Human data has shown substantially greater beta-carotene absorption from cooked carrots than from raw carrots. So again, raw is not automatically superior. Sometimes raw preserves structure. Cooking improves access. And this is exactly why Ayurveda keeps coming back to one question: can your body make use of this form of the food? Now, let's give raw foods their respect they deserve, because if we only praise cooking, we create the opposite distortion. Raw foods can be exceptionally valuable in several ways. 1. Hydration. Raw fruits and water-rich vegetables like cucumber can support fluid balance and lightness, especially in hot weather. 2. Cooling effect. From an Ayurvedic perspective, certain raw foods can help reduce excess internal heat when chosen wisely. 3. Crisp fiber and satiety. Raw textures slow eating, encourage chewing, and can create sensory satisfaction. 4. Preservation of fragile nutrients. Some heat-sensitive vitamins and compounds remain higher in raw foods, depending on the ingredient and method. Vitamin C is one of the clearest examples. 5. Enzyme preservation in food itself. While human digestion depends mainly on human digestive processes, raw plant foods do preserve plant enzymes that are often altered by heat. In cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, the enzyme myosinase helps generate sulforaphane when the plant is chopped or chewed. Heat can reduce this activity. This means raw or lightly handled foods may be especially useful when your digestion is strong, the climate is warm, the food itself is naturally easy to digest, or you're using raw foods strategically, not dogmatically. So raw foods are not the villain. They're simply not universally gentle. This is the key point most people miss. In everyday health culture, raw food is often called light, but from an Ayurvedic digestive perspective, raw food can actually be harder work. Why? Because raw vegetables tend to be cooler, rougher, more fibrous, more structurally intact, and more demanding on digestion. For someone with strong Agni, this may be fine. They may feel fresh and clear after raw foods. But for someone with weaker Agni, too much raw roughage may lead to bloating, gas, abdominal heaviness, incomplete digestion, fatigue after meals, or a sense that the food is just sitting in the gut. Modern gastroenterology also recognizes that certain fibers and fermentable carbohydrates can aggravate bloating or digestive discomfort in susceptible people, especially those with IBS or FODMAP sensitivity. Ayurveda describes chronic incomplete digestion in terms of ama, undigested or improperly transformed residue associated with impaired Agni. So the Ayurvedic question is not, are raw foods pure? It is, are they digestible for you in this moment, in this season, in this quantity? This is why traditional Ayurvedic food preparation is so intelligent. Cooking is not just about flavor, it's a metabolic strategy. Gentle methods like steaming, light sautéing, stewing,
Simmering can soften fibers, reduce digestive workload, and improve the body's ability to assimilate nutrients. You can think of cooking as a kind of external digestion. It begins the breakdown before the food even enters the body. This is especially helpful for people who are cold easily, prone to bloating, low in digestive power, recovering from illness, overwhelmed by large raw meals, or living in colder seasons and climates. Ayurvedic food guidance, in later summaries of classical teaching, repeatedly favors warm, fresh, digestible food over cold, stale, or excessively difficult to digest meals. This is where things get even more interesting. Between raw and cooked, there's a whole middle ground. Soaked foods, sprouted foods, mashed foods, blended foods, lightly marinated foods, lightly fermented foods, lightly steamed foods.
And these in-between preparations matter. A raw carrot stick is different from carrot juice. A whole raw tomato is different from a warm tomato stew. A raw cruciferous salad is different from lightly steamed broccoli. A cold smoothie is different from warm stewed fruit. Ayurveda would never reduce all of those to one category, because preparation changes digestibility. Even in modern nutrition, physical processing like chopping, pureeing, or juicing can significantly alter nutrient accessibility and digestive experience. Beta-carotene bioavailability from carrots, for example, improves with processing and cooking. So the real conversation is not just raw versus cooked. It is raw, lightly processed, gently cooked, overcooked, and how each one interacts with Agni. That is a far more useful framework. Ayurveda becomes extremely practical here. In summer, raw hydrating foods may feel supportive. In winter, large cold salads may weaken digestion, especially if Agni is already low. A chill raw dinner at night is not the same as a midday fresh fruit plate in hot weather. Ayurveda pays attention to season, time of day, digestive strength, age, constitution, current imbalance, and how the person actually feels after eating. So, instead of asking, which camp am I in, Ayurveda asks, what supports balance right now? That is food intelligence. Here is a balanced way to think about it. Foods that often work well, raw, especially for people with decent Agni in the right season. Ripe seasonal fruits, cucumber, tender leafy herbs, fresh coconut, some sprouts in moderation, small raw accompaniments rather than giant raw meals. Foods that often benefit from gentle cooking, especially if digestion is variable. Tomatoes, carrots, spinach, pumpkin, tougher vegetables, dense fibrous produce. Foods where preparation matters greatly, not simply raw or cooked. Broccoli and cruciferous vegetables, carrots, tomatoes, leafy greens, legumes, grains. Ayurvedic digestive supports to help both raw and cooked foods become more metabolically friendly. Ginger, cumin, coriander, turmeric. These are not just taste enhancers, they are part of the digestive strategy. Modern wellness often asks, how do I maximize nutrients? Ayurveda asks a more profound question, how do I maximize transformation? Because food does not nourish you merely by entering your mouth. It nourishes you by being digested, absorbed, assimilated, and integrated. Your smoothie can be full of nutrients and still not suit your current digestion. Your giant salad can look perfect on Instagram and still leave you depleted. And a simple cooked meal with spices may nourish you more deeply if that is what your Agni needs. So, nutrition is not only chemistry, it is relationship between food and fire, structure and absorption, rawness and readiness, nutrients and transformation. So, are raw foods better? Sometimes. Are cooked foods better? Sometimes. Does cooking destroy some nutrients? Yes, sometimes. Does cooking unlock others? Also yes. That is why Ayurveda refuses simplistic food debates. It says a meal is only as useful as your body's ability to digest, absorb, and transform it.
That is why Agni matters. That is why Ama matters. That is why quantity matters. That is why season matters. That is why your lived experience matters. When you understand Agni, you stop eating by trend. You start eating by intelligence. And when digestion becomes balanced, food stops being just fuel. It becomes nourishment. If this changed the way you think about food, subscribe to Rise and Align Yoga Space for more videos connecting Ayurvedic wisdom with modern science. And tell me in the comments, do you genuinely feel better with raw foods, cooked foods, or a mix of both? Because your answer may reveal something important about your Agni.